The following is a paid program of commercial time on KVNU. The information, offers, and claims are solely those of the sponsor and not the opinions of this station, its affiliates, management, or employees. It's time for the Garden Guide with your host, Mark Anderson from Anderson Seed and Garden.
New research suggests that people are more likely to eat vegetables if they have a tempting name.
What would life be without homegrown tomatoes? Only two things that money can't buy, and that's true love and homegrown tomatoes.
From gardening to landscaping.
Today we are going to try and create garden eyebrows. Kind of like the flowers are sprouting directly from your hair. That makes sense.
Phone lines are open at 753-KVNU or 800-369-KVNU.
Kind of like eating vegetables.
It's the Garden Guide, now on KVNU 610 AM and 102 FM.
It is the Garden Guide. We'll feel right with you on another beautiful Saturday morning, and joining us again, Mark Anderson from Anderson Seed and Garden, and we'd call this our Pioneer Day, 24th of July special holiday show.
Can you believe it? We made it to the end of July.
It's, this summer really has gone by really, really fast.
It has been an interesting summer, hasn't it?
My daughters were reflecting on the fact that they have less than a month left before they're back in school.
Yeah, I think Logan City School starts up like the 18th of August. I'm just like looking at my calendar going, holy smoke, it's only like 4 weeks away. So,
and you and I, we still need to get a few more backpacking trips in.
I know. We're working on it. So we've got a trip to the Sawtooths planned this year. So we're doing some Sawtooths. So
very good.
I might have to sneak a Uintas in there also, but didn't want to. It's so dry and dusty. It's really. It's not as fun when it's as hot and dusty as it is. So we're thinking maybe a fall trip would be good.
Very good. So, Well, we're going to be talking about the weather today on the show because, of course, it is playing a factor on many people's lawns and gardens and also their fruit trees. Plus, also, we'll go down a number of questions. We aren't going to be taking any calls today as I understand the store is going to be closed today and you have some other responsibilities.
Yep, other stuff to do. So today, for Pioneer Day, of course, the store will be closed, so we won't be there. Sorry, we will not be there to help you, but we'll be open again on Monday. So plan on getting your garden supplies or your information or your solutions next week. We'll be back again, but we're closed today, and we'll be participating in the Pioneer Day Parade in Logan City today.
Yes.
So get to be one of the co-hosts of the show. So we'll be announcing what all the parades and participants are, and talking about all of the various things that's happening in Logan today. So
that will be, we'll give a quick plug for that because it starts at noon and runs down Center Street just to the west of the store. Doesn't quite run in front of the store. Turns right there at the old, as many of us know, the old Al Sporting Goods back in the day, and then starts heading west. And so, that and usually that's right where they put you, is right there on the corner.
We'll be right there on the corner.
Okay,
so we'll be close.
Very cool.
So not too bad, but we'll enjoy the parade and try and get out there with our family and have a little bit of fun as well too. So
and it's a great day for it. The 24th of July is always a lot of fun, and this year especially is one I think all of us have reflected on. Quite a year it has been, and so a lot that we're really fortunate to be here. And we finally, Mark, got a little bit of rain Thursday night.
Yeah,
it was amazing. It wasn't much. It was only about 2/100 of an inch as we recorded here at the KVNU studios, but
hopefully some more. Hopefully some more coming. But I was out in my garden picking and harvesting, and it has been amazing. So my pepper plants are loaded, my tomato plants are loaded, and they're ripening up. But we've had cucumbers for dinner. We've had beans. So we picked our first batch of beans this week, and zucchinis, grilled those on the grill. They were so good. So if you want some recipes how to grill some zucchinis, we got you covered.
I think we need all sorts of recipes on what to do with zucchinis.
Oh yeah. Because so we had a couple steaks that were in the freezer that we got for Christmas. Forgot that they were in there. Saw those the other day. It's like, oh dang it, we got to eat those. So I pulled those out. They came from Miller's. So we knew that they were going to be like amazing quality. And so we pulled those out, and we picked beans out of the garden, and we steamed those. And I had zucchinis, and we were going to stir fry them with some onions and stuff. My wife was like, oh, let's grill them. So I just put a little bit of grapeseed oil on them, just kind of brushed them with grapeseed oil so that they'll sear really well. Seasoned them with a special seasoning we've got. It's got a little bit of butter flavor and salt and pepper and all kinds of stuff. And just got the grill up to about 550. And we've got a charcoal grill, and it's one that you can control the temperature with. It's got a fan in there, and it's a hopper feed, so it'll just keep feeding the charcoal in there. It is amazing. So when you say I want it to be at 550, it'll just maintain the temperature just like right there. Wow. And so you get the grill really, really hot, and you just throw the zucchinis on there, and the oil, it works great in high temperatures, and so it just seared them just perfect. So they only got like 2 minutes on one side, flipped them over, seared them on the other side, and they were just like cooked all the way through. Oh, they were just like perfect. Yeah, they were awesome.
Well, so and one of my favorites, my wife came across. It was actually from one of the cooking shows out of Salt Lake. They had a recipe for zucchini bread.
Oh, yeah.
And she puts a little orange zest on top of it, and it's just amazing.
Yeah.
We will oftentimes make up about 20 loaves, small little loaves of those, and then we'll freeze them during the summer because we don't eat them all, and then we can enjoy them at least for.
And the zucchini bread, like you do it right, and it tastes just like banana bread.
Oh,
it's
good.
Like moist and delicious. So we had some gray zini and we had some yellow zucchini that were just awesome, and the beans turned out just amazing. So they were great. And fresh cucumbers, you can't beat that. Our cantaloupes are getting close. I think first week of August they'll be ready to start picking those. And the tomatoes and peppers are just going gangbusters. So they like the hot temperatures. Yeah. So last year was one of the coldest summers on record. I think everyone has forgotten that it was cold last summer. So one extreme follows the other. So of course we got like one of the hottest summers on record now. But you know what? The peppers and the tomatoes, they like it when it's 80 degrees at night. It's not comfortable for us. It's like we've had the windows closed, been turning the air conditioner on at night, just to try and stay comfortable. But last year we didn't do that once. We didn't do that once last year because it was like 58 degrees, 59 degrees every night. It was like perfect. Just open the windows up, no problem. But the peppers and the tomatoes, they like it when it stays above 80 degrees at night, and it makes it miserable for us. But that's when they set fruit. That's when they mature. And I've got more peppers this year already than I did all of last year.
Oh, wow.
And some of them are already starting to color up. And so that's the difference in the heat. So what we've been doing in our garden to help maintain moisture is we're not watering every day, as hot as it is. I'm only watering every 3 or 4 days. But I've used Hydrotane in the soil, and the Hydrotane helps the soil absorb and retain the moisture a lot longer. So when I water, it just like sucks the water right down into the soil, and it holds it there where the plants can get it. And I can go 3 or 4 days, sometimes even 5 if it's in a spot where the sun's not like beating on them like all day long. And they're just staying happy and content and just doing great. So as difficult as it is with less water, we've got some restrictions going on. We've got some excessive heat. The plants are really responding well to it. But I know a lot of gardeners are watering a lot. And, we want to keep those plants healthy and happy. But you can probably go another day or two in between waterings. And especially if you use the right materials in your soil, mulches will really help as well, too. So any type of bark mulch down around the plants, that will help us retain the moisture a lot longer, too. It just doesn't dry out as fast.
We've also changed our watering a lot this year, especially in putting the rainbirds aside. That was just broadcasting water out, and instead we're kind of focusing our watering this year and building up the soil around our zucchini and our squash plants, and then just centering the water on those plants, which has really helped because you can easily go a lot longer without having to
probably
water.
Saving hundreds of gallons, if not thousands of gallons, over the entire season by watering that way. Yeah. And I've got soaker hoses through my whole garden, so everything's pretty much on soakers or drip, and so we're using 70 to 90% less water, but it's focused. It's right where the plants are. Yeah.
Makes a difference.
And so I just turn the soakers on, and I'll let them go for 3 or 4 hours. If I've got good pressure, if my pressure is low, then I'll let them go overnight. But it just focuses on a 1 foot, maybe 18-inch wide strip all the way down the row, and the plants get the water right there. It doesn't evaporate off. It goes down deeper into the soil. So my potatoes are doing great. Hey, I planted corn a week ago, and it's already up 2 inches.
Oh, wow.
And so it's coming up that fast. Yeah, so we're going to plant some more beans, and I think this week I'm going to start some cabbage and some broccoli inside so I can transplant those out. So there's a lot of vegetables that you can plan on planting in the next few weeks, fall crops that we can plant first week of August, second week of August, third week of August, and have them maturing into September and October. We've pulled all our peas out. The spinach and the lettuce are all done. It won't be long, and we'll be done with beans and there's room to plant some other stuff. And so I'm going to start some broccoli and some cabbage and some early varieties that will produce in about 60 to 70 days. Start those indoors. I'll have them ready to transplant out in 3 weeks, and they'll be producing the end of September into October when everything else is wearing
starting
out.
to come on.
Yeah. And they can handle the cold too. We get a frost in late September, early October, and they'll be fine. They'll produce until end of October, 1st November.
Yeah,
and it's a great way to recycle that space. So you can do spinach, you can do lettuce, you could do some green onions, no problem. I've even had a lot of customers do peas, so you can get a second crop of peas. Our peas just kind of were worthless this year because it just turned too hot too fast. Yeah, they were looking great through about the middle of May. They looked awesome, and then it just turned so hot the end of May, 1st of June. They just didn't produce. So I'm thinking about doing another set of peas as well too.
Now, what about fertilizing? Is now the time to sprinkle a little fertilizer out and do a little fertilizing on those plants?
Absolutely. So like when we plant, we'll use a fertilizer right in the row with the seeds when we plant. So I've got a nice natural organic fertilizer. You can just put it right down the rows when you're planting. But it usually lasts about 6 to 8 weeks. So if you planted early May, here we are in July, that fertilizer's
gone.
It's gone. It's used up. And so a couple weeks ago I went through and I side dressed my squashes and the cucumbers and the potatoes and just pretty much everything in the garden. Just went and just did a side dressing of a little more fertilizer, and then I furrowed with my push furrower cultivator, and it kind of pushes the soil over on top of it, and so it kind of covers the fertilizer up, so it gets all that nutrient. It stays there in the soil. So when I did the corn, I pushed that dirt on top of it, and that works awesome. Yeah. So Natural Guard makes a really great organic tomato and vegetable food, which I like to use, and you can put that right in the rows. You can use it to side dress. I tried a new fertilizer this year, though. It's from a company called Green as It Gets, and it's a slow release, all natural fertilizer. It's got beneficial microbes and microorganisms in it and mycorrhiza, and I thought I would try that just to see how it worked. It's been outstanding. Yeah,
really?
It's been really, really good. So I've been very impressed with it. We like to try new things. I got to try it and see how it works. What I was impressed with is I put it on when we were getting those 100-degree daytime temperatures. I was afraid it was going to burn some of my plants. Not a bit.
Not at all.
Did not burn them in the slightest. And I threw probably a couple tablespoons around some smaller plants, put it on some of my smaller cucumbers. I got a couple new varieties to try, so I planted some later. So they were just little guys, and I put that fertilizer right down with them. Didn't burn them a bit. So, yeah, I was impressed.
Very good.
Yeah, I was quite impressed. So.
Well, as we mentioned, we're not taking calls today, but we are answering questions that we've received over the last week.
Yeah.
And
Anderson's is closed today, so for the holiday, unfortunately, sorry, we will not be there today. So if you come in and the gate's closed and the door's locked, you'll know we're out having a good time for Pioneer Day.
out enjoying the festivities as everyone can have the opportunity to do so. So some of the things that people have talked about this past week and asked you about, especially with gardening and plants.
Starting to see bill bugs showing up in the lawns. And so it has been a stressful, hot, dry, summer so far, and we had kind of a dry spring to begin with, but it was cold. So we had a cold spring, and it kind of slowed the insect populations down just a little bit. But then with the heat, they've just blossomed and gone crazy. So grasshoppers have been out of control. But we haven't really seen much in billbugs or grubs in lawns until just recently. I'd say probably in the last week or two. So I'm starting to field a lot of questions on how to control billbugs and grubs that are really starting to show up and do some damage right now in people's lawns. In fact, I went out to someone's house the other day and checked. I was thinking that maybe their sprinklers weren't working well in one section, but sure enough, they had billbugs that were in there just nibbling away. Yeah, nibbling away. So billbugs and grubs are very different. They look similar, but they are different in size. And so grubs tend to be probably an inch to an inch and a half long. They have like 3 little legs right up by their head. They're white. They've got a red head and a darker tail, and they will kind of do a lot of damage in the grass about 2 inches below the surface. Mm-hmm. So they're just eating the root system off pretty much right down below the surface of the soil, and they'll munch that root system to the point where the grass just can't pick up water, can't pick up the nutrient, and it will pull out like a sheet of sod. So you'll have a lot of soil attached to it, but if you cut down into it and start pulling back on it, it will pull out like a newly placed sheet of sod because they've kind of cut those roots off, and you can find the grubs down in there nibbling on it. Billbugs, on the other hand, since they're smaller, they are more right along the surface, but they're just barely below the surface of the soil, and they do the same thing, but they kind of cut the roots off higher, closer to the stem of the grass. And so when you get billbug, you can grab it and pull on it, and it will pull out kind of similar like that piece of sod like I mentioned, but there's not as much soil attached to it. It's just cut off maybe a half an inch below the surface. Yeah, and if you start digging, you can find those guys a lot easier. Grubs are harder to find since they're down deeper. But the sample that I checked the other day, you don't go right to the middle of where the damage is. You want to focus on the edges, where there's good grass transitioning into the bad grass. That's where the billbugs are out doing their damage. And so I'll cut like a 10 by 10 inch square and just pull up on it. And if I can grab it and it just tears out really fairly easily, that's when then you know you've had some billbugs in there. We're not talking about blades of grass just pulling out. We're talking about chunks of turf pulling out. And so I pulled my knife out and cut and pulled that back and dug in there, and sure enough I could find a couple billbugs every couple square inches. So it's like, okay, at that point, time to put an insecticide on to prevent those. So there's some really good options. You can do a liquid systemic insecticide. You can just hook it on the hose, spray it, water afterwards. It'll push that insecticide down into the soil, kills them on contact, and then the grass will actually absorb up that insecticide, and anybody that comes and nibbles on the grass, it'll kill them for months. So we're talking probably a 2 to 3 month residual with a systemic insecticide. And so you could do like grub-free zone or the high-yield systemic insecticide. Those would be great options. I really have had good results with the high-yield Bug Blaster Plus. Now, the Bug Blaster has that systemic insecticide in it, plus it has a contact insecticide also, so you get like a double combination.
Can do both.
Yeah, so it'll kill the insects on the surface. So if you've got like ants or earwigs or even adult billbugs that are crawling around, or adult June beetles, it'll kill those on contact. But then it has the systemic in there as well that it picks it up, and then it stays inside the grass for the 2 to 3 months. So you do an application now around Pioneer Day, it's going to last all through August, all through September, and into the first part of October.
Probably won't need to do it again.
You're good at that point, yeah. So our first application we usually recommend, if you've had problems with billbugs and grubs in the past, you want to do it around Mother's Day to Memorial Day for your first application, and then around the 4th of July to the 24th of July for your second application. They overlap each other, and you get good coverage that way through the entire summer, which is when those bugs are mostly active. Yeah, mostly active. But make sure you get it watered in. You got to get it watered in, and if you put an insecticide on and you water it in really well, and you do a little bit of fertilizing, and in 2 or 3 weeks, if the problem is not getting better, it's either staying the same or it's like getting worse, then you probably didn't have insects. Probably had a disease instead. And that's why it's so important to get out there and do some digging and find out what you've got going on, because stress, insects, disease, they all kind of look the same in your lawn. The damage looks very, very similar. So I'll have customers come in the store. They'll bring me pictures. They're like, this is what's going on with my lawn. It's like, I can't tell. You know, it's like
could be any one of those.
Yeah, it could be any one of those. You know, some of the diseases have very distinctive looks to them, so that kind of helps identify. But, you know, if you're watering and your soil's moist all the way through and you check it and the grass doesn't tear out really easily like you've had insects, it's more than likely you've had a disease. And so we've seen a bunch of disease this year. It started earlier, started in like June, but no insects until probably about the last 2 weeks is when we've really started to see insect damage. And you know, once you get the bugs under control, that's so easy to just plant a little bit of new grass. And this is a great year for planting some new grass, not because we have wonderful water conditions, but because now's a chance where you could put some more drought-tolerant grass in, replace some of the older grass that you've had for a while, have a deeper, darker green lawn that's more insect and disease resistance, doesn't need as much water, and you can start replacing some of this older turf that you've got with some newer varieties of grass that you just won't have as many problems with in the future. So, and
I'm glad you brought that up, because that was one of the questions that I had over this last week as I was out in the lawn, and you hear, you know, for example, Mayor Holly Daines had said the other night that, you know, yellow is the new green.
Right.
You know, we're kind of getting used to this because we have to. And it got me thinking, yeah, you know, the yard is definitely a little bit more yellow than we're used to. And we're okay with that, but maybe we ought to start thinking long term, beyond this year, of what we can do, because our lawn turf has been in there for 20 years.
Oh, yeah.
And
our conditions have changed a little bit.
They have. Yeah. And technology has changed
a lot. Yeah. So last year we decided to kill a section of our lawn out and replant because we'd gotten some weedy grass in there over the years. We got some pasture grass. I mean, we built our home in an old pasture, so it's like we had pasture grass in there. And so my wife was like, okay, 25 years, we're just going to like kill this one section, replant it. It's time to do it. So we did that. Planted a much more drought-tolerant grass in there, a more insect-resistant, a more disease-resistant grass, and planted that. We had it up in 5 days. I mean, so the grass came up in 5 days. I was only watering for like 3 to 5 minutes, maybe 3 times a day, and it was up in 5 days. I mean, it was just up that quick. And by Labor Day, we'd mowed it like 3 times, and it looked gorgeous. And this year, it looks as if it has been there forever. Mm-hmm. But this spring, when our sprinklers, when we finally got irrigation water in there, we couldn't figure out why our grass was really stressing in one section. And it wasn't the new section; it was the bluegrass that was just like butted up right against it.
Oh, okay.
And so I just was stressing like crazy. And of course, it was dry in May, so I was just like, oh, it's just not getting enough water. You know, maybe we should just check those sprinklers and see what's going on. Well, I went and checked the sprinklers, and the sprinklers were working just fine. It's just I had reset the timer last year for the new grass, and I hadn't adjusted it for the for the mature grass.
For the mature grass.
And so it was only getting 25% of the water that the rest of the lawn was. And so right where that transition was between the new grass and the old grass, it was getting a quarter of the water that it used to get. Yeah. And so the bluegrass was really stressing, and it was drying out. We couldn't figure it out. The new grass was green and gorgeous and beautiful with 25% less water.
Wow.
Yeah, or 25% of the water, not
water.
25%
so
less.
75%.
75% less. So it was going for 10 minutes on that station instead of the 40 that I usually do.
Oh, wow.
And so the rest
it was staying green.
The rest of the lawn was getting the 40 minutes, and that section was only getting 10, and it was staying just as green as the rest of the lawn in May. Yeah, so it's getting more water now because it is hotter than it was in May.
Fix that problem.
Yeah, but if we can, as a community, if we can start implementing some of these newer grasses, I'll tell you what, they are darker green. Mm-hmm. Insects don't like to eat them, and so you don't have the insect problem. So if you're consistently year after year putting an insecticide down, all we have to do is change the variety of grass that you've got, and your bugs will just go away. You just won't have to deal with it again. They fight off diseases, and we're going to use 25 to 50% less water than what you're using to keep it greener than it was before.
And a little bit of work now, but it's going to save you.
Yeah.
As we look ahead to the future.
I've got customers that come in, they spend $100 a year on insect control for their lawn. And you spend $100 for new grass,
and that's your seeding right
and
there.
You're done. And you're done, and you don't have to do it year after year after year after year. And then water conservation, I mean, it's going to be huge. But you do a rye bluegrass mix, it's going to be soft, it's going to be green, it's going to be gorgeous, and you'll be watering 30%, 50% less, and maintaining that same green as what you're used to.
So coming up right after the break, because we have 1 minute left, and we'll talk a little bit about how you could make that transition. Maybe this is the year that you say, you know what, I do want to look at maybe making a change and how to go about doing that. Plus, also, we can talk about fruit trees.
Yes.
We haven't talked about those at all. A reminder that Anderson Seed and Garden is closed today for Pioneer Day. Reopening on Monday.
Yep, regular hours next week, 9 to 6, Monday through Saturday, but we are closed for the holiday today.
Okay, so closed today. We're not taking phone calls today, but we have a lot more questions that we're going to be addressing during the second half of the Garden Guide here on News Talk KVNU. With your KVNU News update now, brought to you by Maple Springs Senior Living, I'm Will Feelright. As we have hot temperatures expected to continue, no real chance of any showers. I'll check that forecast for this extended holiday weekend coming up in just a minute. Well, Salt Lake County prosecutors have ruled that an officer was justified when he shot and killed a handcuffed man inside a police station. District Attorney Sim Gill said on Thursday that Sergeant Tyler Longman will not face any charges related to the fatal shooting of Michael Breinholt back on August 23rd of 2019. Body camera footage shows Breinholt wrestling with two officers and one of them yelling that he was grabbing his gun. The footage then shows Longman run into the room, grab Breinholt's head, and fire his weapon. Gill says that he believed Breinholt's death could have been avoided, but his decision had to focus on whether the incident was justified. And we're learning more about that 9-year-old boy who was found dead inside a car outside a Utah business earlier this week in American Fork. The business reportedly providing services for people with developmental disabilities. Police say that the boy was in the care of Roost Services when he was left behind by a staff member on Wednesday. The child had been left in the car for more than 2 hours when he was found unresponsive in the afternoon. Temperatures had reached up to around 94 degrees that day amid this regional heat wave. Police are now investigating the exact circumstances as well as possible criminal charges. Well, this heat wave is expected to continue as daytime temperatures are staying right around the mid to high 90s through this extended holiday weekend, and overnight temperatures going to stay right around the mid to low 60s with no real chance of any measurable rainfall possible through the next 7 days. I'm Will Feelright for KVNU News.
From ABC Sports. Hi, everybody. I'm Todd Ant. After much anticipation, the Tokyo Summer Olympics officially got underway with the opening ceremony. But an increase in the number of COVID cases inside the Olympic Village is fueling even more calls from protesters to cancel the Games.
Protesters furious as new COVID cases have risen in Tokyo ahead of the Games. The executive director at the IOC telling our Amy Roback he's confident with where things stand despite the opposition.
There's no scenario in which they can be cancelled.
ABC's James Longman in Tokyo, and China's Yang Xin won the first gold medal of the Tokyo Olympics in the women's 10-meter air rifle. Back to stateside with baseball, the opening game between a pair of Central Division leaders lived up to the hype.
Swinging a fly ball down the left field line, hooking towards the pole, gone!
The call on WTMJ, Tyrone Taylor's grand slam was part of a 6-run 7th-inning outburst for the Brewers, who topped the White Sox 7-1. This is
It's the Garden Guide on News Talk KVNU, 610 AM and 102.1 FM.
Welcome back. It is the Garden Guide on this special 24th of July holiday, and we hope that you're having a great time with maybe some family and friends today. As we mentioned as we are finishing off the show, today is a little bit of a unique show in that we're not taking calls, and also Anderson Seed and Garden is closed for today.
Unfortunately, we are closed today, but we thought it would be a good opportunity to go have some fun with our kids and, not have to worry about the store being open. And we figured everybody else is going to be out barbecuing and going to the movie, going to the pool, going to the parade. There was a parade today, and we would try and do that with them.
A lot of events going on. The parade gets underway at noon, goes down Main Street. Then there's all sorts of Pioneer games and other events and a concert over at Willow Park.
Fireworks.
10 o'clock tonight.
So if you're lighting off your own fireworks, be super, super careful. Super careful, but we know it's fun to do. So
I think this is the year that most of us have agreed, though, that we're just letting the city do it.
Yeah.
And they put off a much better show.
A great show, yeah. It was
a lot
awesome
better show than I would ever do.
Yeah, it was an awesome show for the 4th, and they're planning on doing the similar for the 24th. And I've been twisting the mayor's arm and the fire chief's arm that we could do fireworks downtown right after Thanksgiving.
Oh,
I can't get them to say yes yet, but I'm working on it. Wouldn't that be awesome down there on Center Street? And we have the holiday parade
to kick off the holidays,
like the Saturday after Thanksgiving, and we could have like a couple choirs from like the high schools come and sing and carol down there, and then when it gets dark enough, we could shoot off fireworks. Wouldn't that be awesome?
And I would hope, but by then we don't have these
We do not have fireworks restrictions. I know that,
but
would
who
be
knows
perfect.
what this year might
that
bring?
Would be so perfect. But come down to the parade today. It should be great. I will be co-hosting on the Valley Channel, and so we'll be talking about all the floats and all the participants. So that should be pretty fun. But Anderson's is closed today, so if you come to find us, we won't be there, but we'll be there next week. So
And we've been talking about questions that you've been getting at the store over the last couple of days, and we were finishing off talking about grasses. And, a lot of us, as we were mentioning, kind of looking at the future, this year where we have cut back our watering in an effort to try to conserve. We're thinking, maybe this is the year to make a change. Our lawn in particular, we've had for 20 years since the house was built.
Right.
And as you were mentioning, a lot has changed as far as grass variety. And so if you are looking at making a change, how easy is it to do?
It's really not that difficult. And we built our house 25 years ago, and we started putting grass in right after that. So our grass is between 20 and 25 years old.
So about the same time.
Yeah. And I'll tell you, that new grass that we planted last year has outperformed our 20-year-old grass like unbelievable. It's like it's soft, it's dark green. We've been watering a lot less, and it is just staying as green as it was before. So I've got people driving past my house and they're going, Andersons are like using water like crazy. It's like, no, we're only watering like twice a week like we've been asked to do. We've got irrigation water, and it's just doing awesome. So what we did last year, and it was right in the middle of July that we did it. So it was like the 15th of July. We sprayed our existing grass, and it was about 1,000 square feet that we decided to renovate and redo because we'd had a water line break there and like a sprinkler line, and so it was kind of sunken in one spot and just needed to do a little bit of re-grooming as well too. So we sprayed it, killed it all off. Took about a week. So we sprayed it, waited 4 or 5 days, sprayed it again. A couple days after that, it was like dead.
Okay.
And so then we just dropped the mower down as low as we could go, just like scalped it right to the ground and just mowed it as close as we possibly could. So it's just dead grass mowed right down to the ground. Brought a little bit of topsoil in, fixed some of my low spots and my high spots. So I kind of got it re-groomed and leveled and nice. But I just brought about 1/4 of an inch of topsoil in over the top of the dead grass. It was easy to do. I did it myself, did 1,000 square feet. It took me a couple hours in the afternoon just to spread the soil out, fix some of those low areas, and then just groom it over the top of the dead grass. And then I seeded it. I sprayed it with a seed starter, put a little bit of fertilizer and humate on there, and we watered for 3 to 5 minutes 3 times a day. So I had the sprinkler set to go on about 9 o'clock for like 4 or 5 minutes, and then they came on at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and they came on at 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon.
And it would only go for about 5 minutes.
5 minutes, yeah. And so I think I set it at 5, and it was a little too much. I had some puddles showing up, and so at that point, then I backed it off to about 3 or 4 minutes, and just enough to keep some moisture out there, but not puddle. So we didn't want any puddles. And so I just had it going 3 times a day. Grass was up in 5 days.
already.
We had 5 days. We had new grass popping up already, and after a week, you could really see it. Like it was like almost an inch long already after a week, and that's all it took. And then we'd fertilized it, and so I just kept watering it just to get more to germinate. So we kept that same water schedule for probably 2 weeks. But then once the grass really had all germinated and was really starting to fill in, then we started increasing the time, but less frequent. So I went to twice a day for 5 or 8 minutes, and then all of a sudden it was once a day for just 10 minutes. And by the time we hit Labor Day, we'd mowed it like 3 times already. And, now I look at that grass and it's just like, it looks like it's been there forever. In fact, this spring, it looked like it had been there forever. And so it didn't take long to get that in. And, for 1,000 square feet of grass, we were talking like $25. It costs $25 for the grass seed and a little bit of fertilizer, so under $50 to do 1,000 square feet. And it has used less water. It's been darker green. We just don't have any insects. And I had a customer stop by my house yesterday because he wanted to see the different grasses that I've got, because I've got like 4 different grasses in my lawn. And so he wanted to see because he's thinking about rejuvenating his lawn as well too. And so I showed him the Kentucky Blue. I showed him the Blue Rye mix that I put in last year. I showed him my Marks mix, which is really drought tolerant. So that gets like less than half the water that the rest of my lawn gets, and it just stays green and nice all the time. So there's some really, really great options out there. It's easy to redo sections of your lawn like that. You don't have to do the whole thing all at once. You can just do a piece at a time. But I'll tell you what, no insects. Yeah, I mean, he couldn't believe that I never put an insecticide on my lawn. And it's like, I never put an insecticide on my lawn.
Don't need to. And a lot less watering.
A lot less water. Just don't have the diseases. And it's just dark green and beautiful. It's just nice. $25 to $50 per 1,000 square feet, depending on how serious you want to get. So, yeah.
It's definitely something to think about.
Not bad at all.
And I think you maybe hit on something. Maybe look at saying, okay, this year we're going to do the front yard. Next year we'll tackle half the backyard, and then we'll do the other half.
You don't have to do the whole thing.
Yeah.
And really, the best time of year, the absolute best time of year to do it, is the 1st of July through about the 20th of September.
So right about now.
Yeah. So right now we're right in prime time, and that grass seed will germinate super fast, and it will get established quicker. You just don't have to use that much water to get it to germinate. In fact, it uses a lot less water than your older established lawn's going to need, since it's got a much more established, larger, bigger, aggressive root system. You got to water a little bit more. So getting new grass in there, grass that's more drought tolerant, more water conserving, that's going to make a huge difference for you.
Yeah. So, and that brings up a good point, because a number of cities, and it was a topic this past week, as Logan City has been talking about just some of their water resources. Fortunate that they have a little bit larger resource than some of the other communities, but really all throughout northern Utah and southeast Idaho, we're looking at what can we do to conserve water.
Yeah. And there's a lot of things you can do on your lawn, and especially on your plants and trees and shrubs as well too. And so for lawns specifically, my favorite go-to product is called Hydrotain. And the Hydrotain is a natural material. It comes in a liquid and also in a granule. You can apply it to lawns. You can apply it to shrubs, flower beds, planters, hanging baskets, vegetables, fruits. You can use it anywhere where you've got soil. And what it does is it binds to your soil, and then it attracts water to it. And so it's very, very attractive to water. So it's strong enough that it'll actually pull humidity out of the air into the soil.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
Yeah. It's a really cool product. It lasts about 90 days. Like I said, it's all natural, and you can apply it to your turf. You can put it into your garden. You can put it into your hanging baskets. And when you water, it pulls that water right down into the root zone, and then it holds it there where your plants can get it. So you'll have less evaporation. You'll have less runoff, and excess moisture, like that rain last night. It would have pulled all that moisture that was available right down into the soil to hydrate the soil up.
So you're basically scattering millions of tiny little sponges throughout your lawn and your garden.
Yep, and it just absorbs all that excess moisture up and makes it available to your plants so they can utilize it.
And that's called hydrotane.
Hydrotane, yep, hydrotane. It comes in a liquid, hose in. You can hook it on your hose and just spray, or it comes in a granule you can broadcast out just like a fertilizer. I will put it on my lawn in June, and it lasts until Labor Day through the whole hot, dry part of the summer. And you can literally cut your water back by 30 to 40% and still keep it as green as it was before. So you could eliminate that one watering, what we've been asked to do. Instead of watering 3 times a week, go Mondays and Thursdays instead, and your lawn will stay pretty much as green as it was before.
And the money you're going to save cutting back that on one watering.
I'll easily pay for the hydrotane. Yeah, I'll easily pay for the hydrotane. But I've been using it in my vegetable garden and using it in our flower beds as well too. So we can do the same thing in the garden, the flower beds, because it's absorbing and holding that moisture a lot longer than it would otherwise without the hydrotane in there. And it's safe to use on vegetables and fruits and everything. It's amazing. Hydrotane really, really helps.
I think of my wife. She has a number of plants that are in our kitchen area, kitchen windows. And what about house plants? Sprinkling a little of that in there, because a lot of those oftentimes, because they're in direct window light, so oftentimes that window magnifies.
Dries them out, If you're going to apply it to plants, like the liquid, you've got to make sure and water right after you apply it. Okay. And so I've had a couple of customers who've had this problem, and I have done it the same thing in the past myself as well too, where I mixed up in a watering can, watered my plants with it, and I didn't water right afterwards. Well, the hydrotane pulls moisture out of like the atmosphere. It'll pull moisture out of the leaves as well too.
The plants.
So it'll dry the leaves out. Yeah. So once you apply it, make sure and apply it mostly, if at all possible, absolutely all to the soil, not on the plants. But if you do get on the plants, just water them. Just make sure and wash it off so it gets down into the soil.
And then drench it down into the soil.
Yeah. The granule is less. The granules are way more forgiving, and so you can apply the granules, and if it doesn't get watered immediately, it's not as much of an issue. But I've actually burnt my squash and my cucumbers with it before because I didn't water afterwards. Yeah, so make sure you water afterwards because it'll pull the moisture right out of the leaves of your plants. Okay. That's how effective it is. But it really, really works. I haven't been able to get 50% less out of it. It says on the bag you can get 50% less, but I've been getting between 30 and 40% less, which is amazing.
And that's called hydrotane.
Hydrotane, yep.
And
hydrotane.
A great option for your lawns, your gardens, to be able to cut back on watering and still not put your lawn and your garden plants into shock.
Absolutely. Soaker hoses and drip system, you can just cut your sprinklers down to the point where, a sprinkler will put out the right amount of water for your landscape. But if you can switch to a soaker hose, you will do the same job with 70% less water. So using 30% of the water you were using previously, you can like eliminate that much. But if you go to a drip system, you're talking 90% less water. And so you're only using 10% of the water that you would use for what a sprinkler would do. Yeah. So when it comes to shrubs and trees, if you can put your sprinkler system into a soaker or a drip system, you will cut that much water usage, but your plants will respond equally as well, if not maybe even better than they were before. And mulches really help a lot. So if you can put a 1 or a 2 inch bark mulch, in around your trees and around your shrubs, you don't even have to put the weed barrier down. Just a bark mulch, or even rock if you would rather have decorative rock or lava rock or whatever. But it reflects a lot of that heat off. It maintains the moisture underneath it. It's amazing where you've got a good chunky bark mulch down around plants. You'll water, go back a couple days later, pull that mulch back, and it's still wet. It's still wet underneath there. The heat goes down through, but it just doesn't evaporate the moisture off as fast. And so using mulches can really, really save a lot of water, whether it's in the garden or whether it's around trees and shrubs or flowers. Using those decorative mulches really does make a difference. Yeah, it makes a big difference.
Well, as we were talking about taking care of little hydrotane in your gardens, also, this is the time we need to be looking at fertilizing plant of corn, especially.
Oh, yeah.
Treating squash plants and things like that.
My corn's starting to tassel, and my rule of thumb is I fertilize it when it's 12 inches tall, when it's 3 feet tall, and when it tassels. And so I've already put 2 fertilizers on already. It's just dark green. It's beautiful. It's like really starting to tassel. And I will hit it one more time with just a straight nitrogen fertilizer. So 2100 would be great. If you've got some urea, that would work excellent too. You just don't have to use as much because it's so potent. But straight nitrogen fertilizer for the corn, usually a teaspoon to a tablespoon for each cluster. I'll just walk down the rows and just like throw it right at the base of the corn, and then water afterwards. Water afterwards. The corn really needs it, and if you're not fertilizing your corn, it's going to be short. The ears are going to be shorter. They're not going to fill out all the way. You're not going to get as many ears per stalk, and so make sure and feed that corn because it really needs it. And we're watering our corn about every 4 to 5 days, giving a good soak, and it seems to be just performing like crazy with this hot weather.
One of the things we found is we were not fertilizing our corn when we first started gardening, and we put the corn in one particular place, and it just took off. I mean, we had just an incredible year, and then we thought, hey, this is easy. We know what we're doing. We'll put it right back there again the next year, and nothing. And then we thought, okay, well, we'll move it to another part of the garden. Did great. And what we didn't realize is that corn was just sucking up every bit of nutrient out of that garden.
The corn's a heavy feeder. You think how tall it grows. I
mean,
it's gotta have nutrient to grow tall and to produce. And so if you're not consistently feeding it, it's just not going to give anything back.
and it will take everything it can out of that soil.
It does. What I'm really kind of thrilled about this year is we've got tomato plants that are like 5 to 6 feet tall right now, and they are just absolutely loaded with fruit. So they're really coming on. I've got cherry tomatoes we've been picking already. I've got a couple other varieties that are earlier that are starting to color up. So we've got plants that are coloring up. But now's the time to really get after diseases on the tomatoes. And so I've been seeing some samples. I've had a lot of people bring in samples of their tomatoes are not looking so great. And we're seeing early and late blight right now, which are easily controlled with a fungicide. And so between the potatoes and the tomatoes, they both can get early and late blight both. And so we've been spraying for disease. And with the higher humidity that we're seeing as well, too, with the thunderstorms coming through, the kind of monsoonal moisture, that means we'll see some bacterial speck and some fungal spots on the tomatoes as well, too. So this is the time to really get a disease control out there as well.
And what are signs or symptoms that people can look for with blight?
With the blights, basically your plant looks like it is not getting enough water. Even though it's getting plenty of water, the leaves will start to turn brown, and it starts at the bottom of the plant and kind of works its way up. But with the late blight, there's some brown spots that will show up on the leaves, and then you get spots on the brown spots as well too, and that's kind of a telltale sign for the late blight. And it happens on the potatoes as well as on the tomatoes. But a simple application of like complete disease control from Monterey or copper soap from Natural Guard. Those are 2 natural fungicides you can use like right up to the day that you're going to harvest. Very safe to use, but very, very effective. And I would just plan on in the evening when it's not so hot, maybe 8 o'clock, 8:30 when the sun's kind of gone down, but it's just not dark outside yet. Get out there and spray those plants, and definitely spray the fruit as well too, because with the humidity, we're going to be much more inclined to get diseases on the fruits as well too. Blossom end rot. I don't know if you've seen a blossom end rot lately. It was like the tomatoes right on the bottom of the tomatoes, they'll turn black.
Yes.
Yeah. That's a calcium deficiency, not a disease. And so I've got people who bring them in. They're just like, oh, I got a disease on my tomatoes. It's like, no. This is a calcium deficiency. So we've got some calcium chloride products you can spray right on the plants. Actually help them set fruit. It'll help the fruit develop quicker, and it will prevent that blossom end rot from happening on your tomatoes as well too. So a really common problem, especially when we have drought conditions. We've got really dry soil conditions. The plants won't be able to pick up the calcium as well, and so we're going to probably see a lot of that this year on the plants. So not a bad idea to spray them with the calcium chloride or use a calcium nitrate fertilizer on the soil around them. That would be really good as well too. But plants are going to struggle picking up the calcium this year.
Right. And time to treat them right now.
Yeah, right now. You could even mix the fungicide in with the calcium and just spray the whole plant with it. Yeah, and it'll pick up the disease control as well as the calcium. We've got a really cool product from Fox Farm, and it's called CalMag, and it's used in a lot of other areas of the country for growing marijuana.
CalMag is
CalMag,
what it's called.
But it's great for tomatoes too because they like the magnesium and the calcium, and so it really helps with those nutrient deficiencies. Gets the plants to set fruit and ripen up the fruit a lot faster, so it works amazing on the tomatoes. Yeah.
Okay, so CalMag, another one of those products you may want to look into. Now, we have just about 4 minutes left. Okay. Here's one that kind of caught me off guard this year. So this year, our family had decided we're going to put up a few birdhouses and attract a few of the different bird species. Right. And so we've got some hummingbird feeders that are just, we literally can't keep them full.
Oh, because they're just
hummingbirds
like
all over. Yeah. And it's been so fun to watch. And in the back of our home, we put up a few other bird feeders to attract finches.
Yeah.
And it's just been a lot of fun to watch them. But all of a sudden, I went out to the apricot tree the other day, and come to find out that the finches that we've been attracting to our bird feeders, the finches then, after they eat some of the bird seed, they're like, oh, hey, let's go get some fruit.
The apricots are really good, too.
Yeah. So any idea on ways to be able to keep birds out of your fruit trees?
Absolutely. And the apricots are ripening up right now, too. Yeah, so apricots are going. So we lost our big, old, probably 75-year-old apricot that last September to that big windstorm. Took out our big apricot. It had been on its last leg for quite a while, but it bit the dust. So we've got another one coming, and we've been picking fruit off of it as well too. So we've got a replacement, but it's
just getting started.
It's minuscule in size compared to the other one, but that's all right. But the birds love the cherries and the apricots, and they'll just be all over those. So there are some options. The bird scare tape. It's a reflective tape that you can cut into 5-foot streamers, and then you can just tie it on the branches. And when the wind blows, it picks up a little bit of light. It's kind of made out of the Mylar reflective holographic stuff. And so it picks up all the sunlight.
Okay.
And so when the wind blows, it wiggles and it reflects light and it scares the birds off. So their natural flight instinct will kick in because they think there's a predator nearby.
And they just take
take off. Yeah. So that works great. You can just attach those to the branches and just let them dangle down, and then they'll just blow in the breeze, and it just scares the birds off. And those actually work really pretty well.
Okay.
Yeah. I've got a bird repellent that is coming for next year. It's made by the same company that does all the stopper products, so deer stopper and animal stopper and cat and dog stopper. Well, they'll have a bird stopper for next year as well too, and it's safe to use on the edibles.
And then you could put those on a fruit tree.
Yeah. So you could absolutely put that on there. Yeah, keep the birds off of your cherries, which would be great.
Yeah.
So those are two options.
Okay.
Yeah. The scare tape works really well. It's very inexpensive. You can get a 50-foot roll, 100-foot roll for less than $10. Okay. Just cut those streamers off and just tie it right on there.
Yeah, because as much as we've loved having all sorts of birds around the house, enjoying the bird seed and the bird ears,
all those unintended consequences sometimes.
We brought this on ourselves, and that's the part that we're kind of kicking ourselves about. It's we invited all of these birds here, and now look what we've done.
You just got to have a trade-off somewhere. The birds come in. It's fun to watch them. It's great to feed them. And the hummingbirds especially, they need the food right now. Since we're having drought conditions, it's great that we're able to feed them and keep them happy. But, it does attract in,
Yeah, there is a trade-off. So we've got one last minute, and let's mention again. So the store is going to be closed today.
Closed for Pioneer Day. Yeah, closed for Pioneer Day. We do have some great sales going on. So we've got trees and shrubs that next week will be on sale for 25% off. Okay. We are doing some clearances, try and move some product out. Believe it or not, holiday stuff is starting to show up, so we got to make room.
Yeah, before long, we're going to be talking about the Christmas opening open house.
It won't be long. But a lot of things happening in Anderson's. We've got some really great deals going on in plants, some nice new perennials. We're clearing the greenhouses out, so annual flowers and vegetables are all like super on sale. We always want to find a happy home for those. But we'll be there to help you figure out your water needs and how to try and conserve. We've got Hydrotain, got a lot of different products to try and help you be more conscious with your water to be more effective and use less. So.
And coming up next week, we'll be talking more lawns, gardens, and probably more
harvesting, planting fall crops, all that fun stuff,
and probably more conservation tips because it doesn't look like this weather is going to be changing anytime soon.
Hopefully, some thunder showers. We'll get some storms coming in, but I'm not going to count on it.
Yeah,
I'm not going to count on it.
Hope you have a great Pioneer Day.
Yes,
enjoy the parade.
You too, Will. Thank you.
And we will see you back again next week for the Garden Guide here on KVNU.
The preceding was a paid program of commercial time on KVNU. The information, offers, and claims were solely those of the sponsor and not the opinions of this station, its affiliates, management, or employees.
Because of you, I found the resources I needed.
Because of you, I found the right doctor.
Because of you, I'm not alone.
These are words we cherish at the Sarcoma Alliance. Each year, thousands of Americans of all ages are diagnosed with sarcoma, the rare 1% of all cancers. The Sarcoma Alliance is there during their difficult journey, providing education, guidance, and connection. Learn more at sarcomaalliance.org. Sponsored by the Sarcoma Alliance.
Breaking news. Stimulating talk.
Here's what we do. The biggest problem we have is ignorance.
KVNU Logan, 610 AM and 102.1 FM.